Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about the DealMachine Driving for Dollars app, and we're going to walk through and kind of do a demo video so you can see all the features and benefits and how it can help you get more deals and find more properties. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about driving for dollars, just in general, and why it's so important for investors like you and me to use driving for dollars to go out and find wholesale deals or, to start our business or even maintain our business in the long run. And the biggest reason is, if there's big investors in your market or even big, wholesalers in your market, they spend thousands of dollars a month on mail campaigns. And, for somebody that has limited resources, if let's say you have $500 to spend on marketing, you can blow through $500, in a second with direct mail and not get any response. Typically on direct mail, if you just send to an absentee owner list, your response rate is going to be 1 to 2% at best, maybe not even that good. And then on top of that, you've got to figure in that it takes about 20 calls from sellers to find a good wholesale deal. So, if you send out $500 worth of mail and you're lucky and get 5 calls, you might not get a wholesale deal out of that. They might want to sell the house, but might not want to sell it for the price that you need to pay for it. So to market via direct mail is very expensive. Now, that's why driving for dollars is so important, because you can focus in on an area, a small city or, a few zip codes or whatever, and drive for dollars and identify every vacant house in that area and then market them with mail. So you take your list down from maybe, thousands like a big investor or wholesaler would be mailing to, and you can narrow that down to, a couple hundred. And for a fact that all those houses are vacant and they've got tall grass and potentially a motivated seller. So it's hyper focusing your efforts on a small geographical area and a small list. So, work a city or, like I said, a few zip codes, and then slowly build out, but really make your focus in one area and don't try to cover a whole metropolitan area. Say, if you live in Dallas, don't try to do, the whole Dallas, Fort Worth metroplex. Just focus on a couple cities in that area and really, focus your efforts. Okay. So, that's what I want to talk about. If you're new and you don't have a lot of money for marketing, or even if you do have money and you don't want to waste it on direct mail, use driving for dollars as your strategy, as your specialty. Okay. And even if you get to the point where you don't have time to go out and do a lot of driving for dollars, then you can hire somebody to do it for you, and you're still going to come out better than you do with direct mail. And we're going to get into that in the video, but I just wanted to talk about it real quick. Driving for dollars, in my opinion and in my experience, is the very best way to find motivated sellers. Okay. Now, with that said, we're going to hop in a video here with Josh from DealMachine and explain the software to you. And, I encourage you to watch to the end. So, you know how to get DealMachine, you know how to get the free trial, and you can get out and hit the streets and do some driving for dollars and try it out. So here we go with Josh. Hey everybody, David with the Wholesaler's Toolbox. And in this video, we're going to talk to Josh from DealMachine. They've got a lot of new exciting stuff coming out, and I wanted to get Josh on and just to go over the features and benefits of using DealMachine. So with that said, here's Josh. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming, Josh.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, happy to share with you guys today what we got going on, whether you know about DealMachine already or if you've been using us in the past, or if this is the first time you're coming across. This is probably going to be some new stuff that we're going to go over that's going to be totally new information to you, which will be really exciting because we have been launching more products lately and have a pretty aggressive pipeline of products coming up. So keep an eye out for all that kind of stuff. Really the goal for the call, just give you guys an idea of what's going on, how to use DealMachine, how we can help in particular, and all that good stuff. As many of you might already know, when we first launched DealMachine, we've always been focused specifically on the driving for dollars process. How do you take what has always been a process that's worked really, really well for people? I mean, there's books 40, 50 years old, people talking about driving for dollars, finding distressed properties, hunting down the owners, and getting in contact with them to purchase their property at a discount. And so for us, we realized that was a really effective process that just took a lot of time. And so it's always been kind of subcategorized as a really beginning tool for investors, because as they scale up, it's hard to dedicate the time it takes to do it well. And so for us, we always said, let's make it even easier for those beginners to start the process, get data available to them in their hands on their phone, and help begin that marketing process even faster. And so that's kind of why we started DealMachine and focused on the driving for dollars aspect, and why what we've done really for the last 3 years is we've grown in the space. And so again, for people who have first coming across us, it's kind of our background. For people who have known us for a while, one really exciting update that came about 3 weeks ago is we launched our marketing engine, some of the data that we have, and also the contact and lead management system that we have out into a free CRM, where you can actually, if you've got an address that you're interested in, you can find ownership information, you can send a postcard, you can skip trace it, and you can do all that without being a monthly subscriber. It's just cheaper to do all those things once you are a subscriber to our driving for dollars or our street engine. So I'll clarify some of that stuff as I go throughout this. First things first, whenever you log into DealMachine, you're going to see our dashboard here. Really, our goal here is to give you an idea of some of the content that we've got coming out, just to help you guys be successful. We like to highlight users who have been getting deals, who are closing deals, and what they're doing to help generate success. And then a snapshot of what you and your team are doing on DealMachine. So just how many deals are you adding? How much marketing do you have going out? How many leads have you done over the last 4 weeks or the previous 4 weeks? So we just try to give you guys an idea of what's actually going on in DealMachine.
But Josh, I know you guys talk about this and you send out a lot of emails on this, but for somebody just getting into wholesaling and using driving for dollars as a method, what is your average number of houses per deal that somebody's got to go to get a deal using DealMachine?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely want to setting good expectations is really important to reflect the level of effort that needs to go in to get the results that you're looking for. 200 is a really good average for people to build into their processes. That number is also derived from our results that we've seen with customers, and then in particular using our direct mail engine attached to it. Now, obviously, there's a ton of ways that you can market the properties. There's skip tracing and cold calling. There's SMS. There's other forms of direct mail. You could test out your own things against ours. That in particular, though, is just built off our direct mail engine. So just like to clarify that. So about 200 properties. It's going to vary market to market, though. I know people. So I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. If I'm driving inside the beltline of Raleigh, I'm really expecting it to be more like 250 to 300. If I'm driving Fayetteville, Winston, Kernersville, and things like that are 30, 40 miles outside of Raleigh, I'm expecting them to be more in like the 100, maybe even 75 to 100 property per deal range, just because it's less competitive. Obviously, the deal size are probably going to be lower in those markets.
I find the same thing in the Detroit area. It seems, as the housing values go up, the amount of doors you have to get to also goes up. It's the same here. But I always thought your numbers were pretty accurate, because in my market, when I first started and, without any experience, and I went out and I just started, taping notes on front doors of vacant houses. And in the period of a month, I probably did, 400 houses and ended up getting 5 deals out of those 400. But it was, the values weren't as high. There were lower value, $50,000, $60,000 homes, but it does work. And I agree with your statistics on it. So.
Yeah, and I love one thing that you mentioned. So getting out of the car and putting a door hanger on it, putting a letter on it of some kind, that is something that's really, really powerful in the process of separating yourself. So a lot of people do direct mail. A lot of people doing skip trace cold calling. Actually taking that extra step to get the result, like doing a door hanger or something like that, is definitely really, really valuable.
Yeah, I agree. And I always recommend that, people getting into this because I'm a big advocate of that, just taping the note on the door. But I really think people should use it in conjunction with DealMachine, because it's just, you're just touching that contact, again and again, and that's when you're going to get the deal. So.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, one thing I'll show you in a little bit here is like you can actually keep track of the ones that you've done door hangers on versus the ones you're just direct mailing with our tagging system, for example. So it's easy for you to know, like, hey, like here's the ones I've done the door hangers on. Here's the ones I haven't. So it helps you prioritize and keep track of what's actually going on overall. So let me dive in here a little bit to our map view here. One thing I do want to clarify, obviously I'm demoing this from a computer right now. The mobile app works essentially the exact same way as the computer. And so you're going to be able to do mostly of everything I'm showing you here on your phone while you're out there driving in the field, as well as from your computer, where in my experience, the best way to leverage DealMachine, when you're out in the field, add as many properties as you can, focus on what you can do uniquely in the field by adding properties or door knocking and actually putting those hangers on there, as opposed to then looking at all the details, deciding what you want to do with it. You'll find you're just able to add a lot more properties per hour of drive time that way. And then later on, when it's dark outside, you can jump on your computer, go to your leads view and manage this here. And I'll get to leads view in a second, but you'll just find it's a lot easier and faster to manage your properties that way. And so one thing you'll notice here, these green dots represent properties that I've already added into DealMachine. This is an area that I live in Raleigh. And so it's obviously I've marked a lot of them off while demoing or driving for dollars myself in the area. To add a property into DealMachine, what you're going to see, these black dots actually represent properties that have not been added yet into my account. And so let's grab 1621 over here. So if I tap on that, you're going to see 1621 Thompson Street pull up over here. Immediately, you're going to see the ownership information, the mailing address, the sale date, sale price, all of this stuff. To clarify too, this is available to our free users on the CRM, as well as the Driving for Dollars users on the desktop. On mobile, the map is only accessible to people who actually have our Street Engine and Driving for Dollars feature added on to their account. But on the computer itself, you're able to do this regardless of the plans here that you're on. And so let's assume that it looks like a good opportunity we wanted to take advantage of. You can then add it into your system. It immediately becomes essentially a contact record in your system, where you could then skip trace the owner instantaneously to try to find their information. Those prices will range from 15 to 25 cents, depending on the plan tier that you're on with us, all one-offs. You don't have to build a big list to do it. In this case, it looks like we just found one phone number. You can also then send out direct mail, all instantaneously. So let's say I want to send a mailer out. I'm going to reload this preview. We send postcards with images of the properties that you're actually adding. And so if you're in the field, when you add this property into your system, you can just take a photo directly with your phone, and that's the image that we'll use. We also have a Google Street Pick feature where we'll actually just grab an image from Google and use that to display on any mail that we send. And so I just did that for this property. And so I'll reload this mailer preview. And so as soon as, if I were to hit send now on this, this is the exact postcard that I would send to that property owner. The language, the coloring, all of that's customizable to you. We also have a few different templates for you to choose from as well throughout that process. And again, those can all be done one-offs. Even on our free plan, it's only 99 cents to send a one-off postcard. On our paid Street Engine plans, it's somewhere between 55 and 49 cents, depending on the plan that you're on.
Still not bad for sending postcards.
Yeah, now again, especially one-offs. I think the ability to do one-off postcards and not have to worry about it moving forward is a really powerful thing. To clarify too, you can also repeat these as much as you want. So if you wanted to say, hey, I want to repeat this postcard every 45 days, a total of 4 times, you could set that up as your default setting. So anytime you add a property, you know you'll get those follow-up postcards in without having to manually do that each and every time, which I think, especially as a beginner, is a really big thing. Making sure those follow-ups happen. And when you're busy with 1,000 other things in the business, getting that marketing out can sometimes be a little bit more of a hassle than you're wanting to do, or you just genuinely might forget. And so we try to automate that as much as possible inside a DealMachine.
Right. And I tell people, you know, especially new people getting in this business, but anybody, that they should work maybe a smaller area and hit that person more time, or hit, you know, the people in that area more times. Because if you just hit them once and then go on to different cities and, you know, they never hear from you again, you know, they forget about you. But if you're consistent with your marketing, you leave leave a note on the door, and then they get a, you know, a postcard from you every other month when they do get ready to do something. And if it's soon, they're probably going to call you.
Right. Absolutely. I think repeat marketing and consistency is important in any business, in particular in this one, in particular in with the driving for dollars process. We know the property is distressed. We don't know if there's a present, like a short-term motivator that's actually getting that seller to potentially take the initiative to move the property officially. And so the consistency is really important because we don't know when they're going to get to a selling moment, but we want to be building essentially that relationship with them through our marketing over time, so that as soon as they get to, maybe something has to change in their life where they're like, hey, I need to move, or I need some cash for something that I need, and I've had this property I've been sitting on for 10 years.
Right.
That happens incredibly regularly all across the country. And so we're finding distress before these properties are hitting the other common lists that other people are finding and purchasing. And so we're getting deals that no one else is talking to you by doing that. But the repeat process of that marketing is critical to that success long-term.
Agreed. Yeah.
The two other things I'll note on these properties is, so I mentioned tags earlier. So let's say you did want to have a tag where you are dropping door hangers on something or something like, or maybe if you have like a tag where I personally use a priority tag, for example, if it's a property that looks like a really good, uniquely good opportunity in a neighborhood that's nice for a house that maybe is recently highly distressed for some sort of reason, I might mark it as a priority. And that's the ones I might go ahead and skip trace and call, or maybe even whatever the extra mile effort is, do the door hanger, postcard, all that kind of stuff to try to get to a conversation because it looks like such a good opportunity. So leveraging
I'm actually embarrassed because I use DealMachine and I don't use tags, and I need to start using tags. So.
It's definitely very helpful to help keep you organized out there in the field.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the final thing, you can also add notes while you're out there too. So if you're out there finding a property, obviously you might forget certain things when you actually get out in the field. Maybe a neighbor says, hey, they've been trying to sell but haven't been able to, whatever that may be. You can just record a note and type that in there, and it's going to live there forever for you moving forward. A couple of other cool things to note on our map here. Some of these are not going to be available to the free level users on the CRM, but one thing we can do is actually pre-highlight some properties that have some additional attributes. Obviously, while we're in the field, we're looking for distress. That's the reason that we're driving. We're looking for something unique about the property that no one else can know without actually laying eyes on it. But one thing we can do is use our filters to draw our attention towards properties that might have a little bit better indicators that this is a really good opportunity for us. And so, for example, what I just did, I turned on absentee owners filters with a property that sold at least 5 years ago. And so now I've highlighted in green these properties for me to see. And so when I drive by that property, I'm going to look more closely at it to make sure, hey, maybe my level of threshold of distress is a little bit lower because it has some other indicators that this property might be a good opportunity to pursue. And so that's what you're seeing with our green highlights here in particular. And so as you saw there with our filters, you can highlight by a lot of details about the property. Is it vacant? Is it not vacant? Is it an absentee owner? Sale price, sale date, equity percent, all these different things you can leverage to highlight for yourself while you're out there in the field. One really cool thing I want to clarify too, I'll get into scaling this later on with teams, with deal finders, whether you have partners or anything like that. You can actually preset these filters. So when people join your team and they have their own DealMachine logins and they're out in their field, you can pre-highlight properties for them in the field as well to say, hey, if there's a green property that you go by, I want you to go look really closely at it and add it into the system if it looks at all distressed. So just another notable feature available to you as a full access user, but as well as to your team members as you grow and try to scale this effort with DealMachine. The final thing I'm going to show you on the map is something you've probably already looked at here, this green line. And so one of the things we're able to do is actually track your routes and track the areas that you or your team members have been. And so I'm going to zoom out a little bit here because one other thing we do is actually color code those routes based off of how long ago you drove them. And so and a route that as you're driving it or a route that you've driven within the last 6 months is green. It fades to yellow after 6 months and then red after 12 months. And so it's
I like that feature a lot.
It helps you really make this a strategic part of your business. So instead of just haphazardly driving and hoping you hit every street or hoping you are staying on top of the whole market consistently as time progresses, you're actually able to know, hey, I'm hitting this whole zip code. I'm hitting every single street. I'm not missing anything. Or my driver out there in the field.
When I started in this business, back 5 or 6 years ago, I literally had a city street atlas, and I would take a highlighter and do every street up and down. And I really like the feature of the highlighting in the DealMachine app, because it saves me the time of having to sit in parking lots, coloring where I've been. It automatically tracks it for you.
Right. Absolutely. That was an update that came out about 1.5 years ago now, which was about 1.5 years after we started. And I think it was the biggest update we ever made to the system to really elevate from a tool for the individual investor to a tool for, I'm making this a strategic, large part of my business,
right,
in a channel that way. And so it was really, really exciting to get that out there. So I'm going to jump down to our leads view here. And so leads, by definition, is just going to be all the properties that you've submitted into the system. That could be from the map that we just did on desktop. It could be a deal finder out there adding it in the field. It could be you importing a list of properties that you got. So for example, one list I get every month is I get the vacant Raleigh list that the county sends to me. And I just all it includes is the number of the address and then the street name. And then I'm able to go ahead and just import that to DealMachine. We instantly append all of the addresses with all of the ownership information. So you don't have to do that manual effort for all those properties. You get the information right away. Again, this is available on the free CRM, up to 50,000 leads that you can manage for absolutely free, and get that data as well. And then also use our marketing engine. So it's a really powerful thing for you guys to be able to do that. Saves you guys a ton of time. I would just say, try to spend an hour doing it. If you haven't done it before, try to spend an hour doing it with the county tax website, and then try to just upload it to DealMachine, and you'll see how much faster this process is going to be.
And even for people that have the vacant house data feed or PropStream or RealFlow, they can download that list and import it in here, correct?
Yep, exactly. And it'll pre-mark the properties on the map. So if you do have deal finders out driving, you can know, hey, this one's already added, so they're not going to duplicate your properties in. So essentially you're getting a list stacking process into this as well, to be able to know that. And that's essentially also our highlighting system on the map is essentially a visual list stacking. So when you're in the field, you're saying this is distressed by seeing the property, but that highlight will say, hey, it shares all these 3 or 4 other attributes that I'm requiring to be highlighted. And so leveraging that highlighting feature in particular, again, I really encourage through that process. So once you come home, again, I mentioned when you're out in the field, try to look for volume of properties you should be adding. Don't try to evaluate each property for its own merit while you're there in the field. When you come home, go to your leads view on your computer and start evaluating the properties one by one. And so you can come to this view the lead, and we'll pull it up on the right-hand side here for you to see, again, all this information that's relevant to your decision on if you actually want to market to it, or if you want to skip chasing cold call. You might literally say, hey, I have this phone number, I'm going to call them. You might record the notes of your conversation right in here, so they're always here and available for you to refer back to in the future. And so we just try to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to organize the leads that have been submitted. One of the important things to clarify, again, these are where the leads that you've submitted as well as your deal finders. And so you're going to see on each deal who created that lead and when. And so as you build a team on DealMachine, as you try to scale this effort, you might have 5, 10, 15, 20 people on your team who have the app and then with a click of a button, can send you the property with a photo of it. And then it comes right here to your system for you to be able to evaluate, okay, this is a lead I just got. Maybe they added notes or tags to it as well. And then again, it's just another lead for you to work and put through your marketing cycle to be able to generate those opportunities.
Something I like to point out to anybody that's working with a team or thinking about getting this feature is that if you add team members or drivers to your account, they can't send mail and they can't alter things. They're just inputting information for you to look at, right? So,
correct. Yeah, we have different, you can have team members that have different levels of permission. That what we call the deal finder user is exactly that. Their only role is to input properties and photos or notes of the property if you ask them to. And then they can't send your mail. They can't download your data. It's just them sending you a lead and saying, hey, this may be of interest to you.
Right.
And you can take the approach of, I won't get into this conversation, it's a whole nother conversation, but you can take the approach of, hey, let's just get my friends, family, maybe partners, things, people like that on my team, and they'll just send properties as they see them. Or you could say, hey, I want to hire 5 people to go hourly and drive for me. I'm going to pay them like $1 per property. I'm going to pay them $15 an hour. And I'm going to strategically, again, tackle this area. Obviously, as beginners, putting that money on the front end is a little more difficult. Depends on what your budget is. I typically don't recommend that unless you have $2,000 to $3,000 a month to put towards the overall marketing effort. But as you get to that stage of that type of budget on a month-to-month basis, it's really far more inexpensive to just pay people to go create these lead lists for you that you can then market to, and you can create reliability and create essentially the entire funnel by consistently adding in enough new property leads at the beginning of it to generate the deals that you're trying to get on the end.
Right. I always loved verified vacant properties. So when I did about my first probably 10 deals, I started paying my kids to drive for me, and, before I had, an app to do it. But I would pay them $1 a house to go in and put a note on the door. And, in some areas you can do, 10, 12 an hour. So they were making, decent money driving around. I'd pay for their gas, but you're not only, getting a note on the door, which if you were mailing, it would cost you $1 to send a piece of mail anyway, but you're also building up that list of verified vacant properties. And with DealMachine, then you can start that postcard campaign. And it's much more cost effective to do it this way than just getting a list from Lead Source and just blindly sending it out, hoping you stumble across it.
Right. And as simple as it is for you to get the list from Lead Source, 1,000 other people just did the exact same thing.
Exactly.
And so you're competing against so many more people when you take the bulk approach. And so your deals are going to cost a lot more, and their margins are going to be smaller on them because everyone's talking to those people.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm going to jump down from our leads view here, go to driving. And so driving really is going to be, when you're in the menu option here, it's going to show you the routes that you or your drivers have taken. So let me pull up an example here. And so this is actually pulls up directly the map that has been added, or rather a map of the properties that have been added on a route that I took in particular. Looks like there temporarily might be a small bug there because the green route should be displaying here at the moment. But we also give you the map view as well as a list view. So we show you the properties that you or that deal finder added on that route. And so the other cool thing is, especially if we ever get to the point where we're paying people on a per property or a per hour basis, we tell you, hey, here's who drove, when they drove, how far they drove, how long they drove, and what date they drove, and then how many properties they added. And so we show you all that detail about each individual route along the way. So it's really easy for you to keep track of the productivity of your team, and what you owe them and what's fair, and just what's actually going on. And even if it's your own routes, these miles that you're driving are tax write-offs. So it helps keep track of some of that stuff for you, which is very relevant to you as an early stage wholesaler. I added up my miles one month, and it was like, oh, this is legitimately like $600 in tax write-offs that
it's a lot
just by tracking this mileage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the other thing under driving that you're going to see here are the driver section. And so we talked about scaling this effort a little bit. One of the way you scale this effort is you get other people to do the driving for you. And so I won't get into all of our plan tiers. We've got a basic level, it's $50 a month, all the way up to an enterprise plan that's $3,000 for the year, but includes all of our features. Average is $250 a month, then is what that averages out to. All sorts of different various benefits and feature sets available throughout those. But reach out to us if we can ever answer those questions, or go to our website, DealMachine.com, and we'll clarify those for you at that point. You can always invite your team members by email. One of the really cool things in particular that our enterprise plan unlocks is the ability to actually build a driver funnel. So people who say, hey, like Joe Uber driver, you're literally in an Uber going somewhere. You're like, hey, I'm a real estate investor, love finding distressed properties. And they say, awesome, I'd love to make some extra cash. You say, awesome, go to this webpage. For me, it's DealMachine.com/team/Josh. The last / is just your custom link. And then they literally show up at that website. You can customize all this content. You can have your own videos. We've got default content out of the box, so you can launch this in a minute if you want to, or you can spend a little time customizing too. And they actually sign up as a member of your team through this process. And not only is it a landing page for them to sign up, we also train them on what they need to be doing after the fact. And so we show them, we say, hey, first, welcome to the team. Glad you're here. Really excited to have you. How are you going to get paid? So you can have your own payment structure, whatever it is. What are you looking for? What are you looking for in a distressed property that I might be interested in as an investor? How do I add tags and notes? How do I add photos of the properties? So we show them everything start to finish, how to be a deal finder for you, leveraging DealMachine. And so we've taken what is typically, historically, in my experience, a 20 to 30 minute process per deal finder or team member to get them ramped up and show them here's how to do everything. You add that up over 30, 40, 50 people, that becomes your full-time job. And so we've taken that all off your plate, where we just automate the process with the video training content that we have. They can't even get into the app until they watch all those videos as well.
And let's face it, everybody you talk into, doing this, or everybody that shows interest in being a driver isn't going to follow through with it. So it's,
Exactly.
So instead of wasting your time on people that aren't going to do it, let them train this way. And then the people that do stick, you've got the people that aren't going to stick, you didn't waste any time on.
Right. And I think barriers to protecting your time, whether it's this or sellers or buyers or whatever, as you go through this business and do it more and more, you're going to want to set up as many barriers to your time where someone needs to prove they're legitimate and they're actually wanting to do what they say they're wanting to do. Make them do the work first. And then once they show you, hey, I'm going to watch the videos, I'm going to add the first 50 properties. Awesome. Now you're worth my time. Now you're worth the effort for me to go have that conversation with you, because you've shown that you're going to take the initiative as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, that rounds out kind of the street engine part in particular. Again, invite team members by email or build that funnel and automate that whole process. A really cool part about the enterprise side as well is we're super hands-on the onboarding and training process. You might be saying to yourself, hey, this sounds like a great idea. I don't know how to do that. Well, we've done this about 1,000 times. No joke. I've done it personally. I've done all the kickoff calls since we started as a company with all of our enterprise level customers. I know what processes work, how to recruit people, the best way to pay them, how to keep them motivated, how to communicate with them and manage them. There's all sorts of things we can go to. I've got process documents for everything, every single step of the way. We even just launched a street team challenge, which is a $100 course that you can purchase that basically shows you here's how to start this process to build the street team and build a scaled version of DealMachine in particular. And David, remind me, you're also building a course yourself around driving for dollars and some educational content there.
Yep.
Awesome. So the next engine I want to show you, I won't dive too deep here, but I mentioned earlier, we've got the different mailers that you can send out. We've got 8 different postcard designs for you to choose from. Again, all of these are customizable with your own content, your own language, copy, coloring, branding, whatever that is. You can make these your own. And we also have a ballpoint pen letter, which is it's actually a machine that picks up a pen, writes a letter, addresses it in the same fashion, and a human puts on a stamp on it and sends it off. And those range from $1.47 on the enterprise plan up to $297 on the freemium model that we have as well.
Those really make a difference too, because it really does look like so many people sending out pre-printed yellow letters.
Yep.
That have just
the fake red,
which are
printed.
fine.
Right.
But this really looks like somebody wrote the postcard out.
It's a real wet ink pen. Yeah. It very genuinely looks real. On the tests that I've run on it, I see about an 80 to 100% increase in responses leveraging these ballpoint pen letters to postcards. So my process when I'm working with customers using our campaign system, we'll set up a process where we start with a ballpoint pen letter and then we switch to postcards after. So we get that really high impact first touch point in, and then we save a little bit of money on the cheaper mailings after the fact. To try to accelerate.
So move to this when you can't talk your spouse or your kids into writing postcards for you anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right? That is actually it for me. The last thing I'll say, our help and support is really, really plugged in. We've got 6 people full-time that manage that channel 9 to 9 Eastern every single day. And we try to be as helpful as we can be. Typically, it's about a 5 to 10 minute response time on most comments that we get in throughout the day. And so they are very helpful and ready to help you do whatever you need to do on DealMachine. And so that's really what we wanted to go over today. The biggest thing I want to leave you guys with as well, the promo code Toolbox, which David I'm sure will include a link at the bottom of the video.
We'll put a link right under the video. Right.
Yeah. And if you just navigate there again, remember to use the promo code Toolbox, because that will give you your first $20 of postcards and or skip tracing for free. So we'll give you that credit as soon as you sign up, whatever plan that you choose to test this out on. We also have a 14-day free trial that promo code gives you as well. So sign up at DealMachine.com, click that link there, use the promo code, and then give DealMachine a try.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Josh.
Yep.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you, David.
I am going to, like you mentioned, I'm going to do a course on driving for dollars, because I think for new wholesalers, it's really the first thing they should start with. Get out there, look at properties, find them, doing it the old school way. And, I'm certainly going to suggest to everybody in that course that they use DealMachine app. So appreciate it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.